everybody. Welcome to the April 18th, 2023 regular board meeting. Can we please stand for the pledge? Would a member of our bowling team like to lead us in the pledge tonight? Captain?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bystruck for his superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Happy spring. People see the snow outside, that's why. It was one of those irony things. Welcome to the April 18th board meeting. I just want to thank everybody for being here and for also tuning in. So I do have a number of things. They're all kind of quick hitters, but I just want to point out a few things that are going on within the district right now, and I know I've been keeping the board up to date, but just maybe to give a little bit of context. So our central registration office, we are creating one. We're in the process of it right now. We're going back to a centralized form of registration. So that's going to be housed over at East Middle School, over in the curricular wing, which is going to be kind of in the bus loop. So it's a classroom that we have right now. Our teacher center is currently there, but we're working to be able to move that just in a room across the hall. This will be nice. We're going to have a couple of clerks over there that are going to be able to register people. So it'll be one-stop shopping. We had this configuration in the district for probably about 5 or 6 years back, a little while ago. We tried to decentralize it and go into separate buildings, and it just wasn't working out right. People weren't getting the kind of, there's just too much going on in the building offices for the clerks to be able to handle that. So we're going to go back to the old way of doing things. So this will be nice for people. So more to come on that, but I just wanted to let everybody know it's going to be over in the curriculum wing over at East Middle School. Totally separate entrance for people to come and go. We'll make sure there's adequate signage. So I think it'll be a good experience for everyone. So we're just in the process of being able to staff that up and look forward to kind of rolling that out, moving into the summer. Also just want to put a big thanks out to our Buildings and Grounds Department. So every year they are up against the elements. Western New York is not kind to our athletic fields, and they've done an outstanding job in making sure the ball diamonds, lacrosse fields and whatnot are up to in good shape. So I just want to big thanks to them for making sure that our kids get out there. Last week was absolutely beautiful. This week not so much. We're hoping that things dry out a little bit. We're back up in action again for toward the end of this weekend and next week. So I know there was some interest expressed, Ed, I think that was you, just maybe getting over to see West Middle School. They have the new music wing over there is fantastic, the main office suite, and West Middle School actually is, and eventually by the end of our current capital project, all of our buildings will have this in place, but we have new swipe cards. So we're phasing out keys for teachers to get in and out of their classrooms. So these same swipe cards, I was just over at West Middle yesterday, swiping in and out of classrooms. There's some safety features. We're able to lock all the doors at once with basically the click of a mouse if in the event of an emergency, which is nice. But teachers can swipe in and out of their classrooms. This is a technology that some other districts in the area have utilized. They're very happy with it, and all reports so far over at West Middle School, they just did a planned lockdown drill over there, went very well. All reports are that ours work too. So anybody that, if there's interest with the board, you want to do a little tour of West Middle just to check out some of the new facilities and just see how these work in action, just let me know. We can work on that to get a time that works for everybody, even later in the day or whatever, around dinner time or something like that. So, so the mascot, so West Senior mascot. So you may have seen that the Board of Regents officially voted this afternoon to basically enact what they said they were looking to be able to act. The public comment period ended at this point. So West Senior is in a good position, so we're going to be phasing out any kind of Native American imagery. We really don't have a whole lot over at West Senior right now. The uniforms, we're working to replace any kind of Native American imagery. At this point, it's really just about changing I'll say the mascot in finger quotes, but so the folks over at West Senior, Mr. Smith, actually the assistant principal, helped Lancaster to go through this process when he was in the Lancaster School District, so he had some good insight into some things that he thought would be helpful. So they've been advertising over at West Senior through internally, so they've got students that are interested, and they've been talking about, I think later this week, I believe they're going to be meeting as a committee there. They want to pull in some West Middle School students into that conversation as well. And basically, this being a very much a student-driven, a student-led initiative to come up with a new mascot. There's a lot of enthusiasm. I just talked with Mr. Keene and Mr. Brinker this morning about that from both schools. A lot of enthusiasm. Kids are excited to come up with a new mascot for the school. This is something that we're going to want to be able to publicize to get out there a little wider. We talked about that this morning too. Our obligation at this point, and I don't see this being a challenge, is but to bring forth a plan. So we have something kind of sketched out. I did talk to Mr. Smith. He's going to put together maybe a little more formalized of a document, including timelines, to put forth before the board. The board's obligation at this point is basically just to adopt a resolution saying that we approve of this plan and that basically you're committing by the end of this school year to transition to a new mascot. You have actually until the end of the 24-25 school year to do that. We don't need that much time. What we talked about this morning was, possibly maybe over the summer that the students would do a board presentation after they kind of, the winner, so to speak, would come and present to the board, to say, hey, this is what we feel would be a good mascot, for West Senior. So more to come on that, but I just wanted to update everybody because I know there was a newspaper article about it this morning too. Some other districts might have a little bit heavier of a lift, but honestly, I think this is something that there's a fair amount of enthusiasm for. So just look forward to kind of moving forward with the process. So I apologize. If anybody has any questions about anything, stop me. I'd like to keep the meeting flowing here. So if there's any questions, please jump in. And just, I know we've been talking a little bit about this, but Northwood, so some good news and some news that we're gonna work through. So the middle schools, as you're aware, came off the state's TSI designation. So the middle schools after this year will not be considered for targeted school improvement based on ESSA. Northwood, though, has now entered the list. So the middle schools are coming off. Northwood is going to be going on. Mrs. Ferry has kind of met with Carmen. Basically, started the initial steps of developing, a school improvement plan, basically, or a school comprehensive educational plan, basically to, address some of the deficiencies. It was a small subgroup, basically, it was on performance on the New York State assessments, just a smaller subgroup, similar to kind of what happened over at East and West Middle School. I think, some of the steps that we took at East and West Middle might be effective in helping out Northwood too. They have a great building culture over there, and I'm confident that we're going to be able to do what's necessary to be able to get off that list as well. But I just wanted to make sure that I just put that on everybody's radar. I know we've been sending updates and things like that, but I just wanted to make sure that we put it out there that this is some steps that we're going to be taking over the next, little while, just to make sure that we have appropriate plans in place for that. And then the last thing I just want to say, just a reminder, and this is a lot for the folks that are in the audience and people at home, but our school budget vote and school board election is Tuesday, May 16th. It takes place same location as always, over at East Senior, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. I just also want to say good luck to all of our Board of Education candidates that have put in their papers to run for the board. Thank you very much for stepping up and offering to serve. So,
Could you clarify why, just for the public, why the school budget vote and the election doesn't happen during the regular election cycle, so in the fall? Why it has to be in
I believe it's related to education law at this point. So all school district budget votes are at the same time right now. All the suburban districts anyway are all at the same time. There was some talk of trying to tie them all together into one. I don't know where that stands at this point. So
we as a school district don't have the ability
Correct.
To move it into
we don't pick the date.
November election cycle.
Correct. Yeah, we do not pick the date. Someone once suggested to me it was because and again, I don't have any good authority whatsoever, but they wanted to kind of keep the politics separate from school budget votes and things like that. So that's what it was suggested to me at one point, but I don't have that on any good authority or anything. But I know it's come up. So,
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Sure. Any questions for me? I know I said a lot and talked kind of fast, but. Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Director.
Sure.
I also have just a quick update. I'm not sure if we covered this at our last meeting, but I just wanted to thank everyone who put in hard work to make our curriculum showcase. I thought it was a great success. Our PTAs, teachers, parents, administrators, it was very well attended. It was a lovely event showcasing all the different interesting courses that we offer and a sneak peek into the cool and unusual projects and topics that each class covers, and the students were there showing children how to, use microscopes and look at blood work, and then also a little cool social studies and science and even English projects. So it was really nice. So I just want to thank everybody for their hard work with that. I'd also like to thank the 8 West Seneca community residents who stepped up to run for our 3 open seats on the Board of Education. The District Parent Council will be organizing a Meet the Candidates night, and information will be coming out shortly, so please pay attention for that. And not sure if anyone knows this, but it's National Volunteer Week. So I just wanted to thank our board members for giving your time and energy and making thoughtful decisions for our schools and students. And, you know, our work is not possible without dedicated volunteers like you guys. So I know we don't often feel appreciated, but I wanted to let you know that I recognize you and I thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, that's it. I'm going to turn it over now to Mrs. Persico. Could you give us a little update?
Absolutely, thank you. And thank you for mentioning the curriculum showcase. I too had it on my list. I thought it was a great event, and I thank those of you who came out, board members, that evening. We thank you for your support of that event. We did put out a feedback survey to all of our community, and the results were very favorable. There are some very good feedback comments that we will look to make modifications to moving forward. So some people felt like they needed more time, so we can make some modification for that. Some people wanted it a little more close in distance from certain stations, so we will work to really meet the needs that were demonstrated as part of that survey. So thanks to the board for your support of that event. And then transitioning right now to On My Way to K. So our second annual On My Way to K is scheduled for August 16th from 5:30 to 7:30. It will be at West Senior this year as opposed to the soccer complex. We wanted to keep it in district. So we are working to start planning for that. Easier having done it once already, so it should make it for a little lighter of a lift this summer, but we are looking forward to planning for that as well. We already have some student designs that have been submitted for this year's t-shirts. They're adorable, so the committee will look to vote on which one we would like to represent the event this year. We have currently in the district, I know I've mentioned this before, we are piloting the iReady student measurement, progress of measurement at both Winchester Potters and Northwood. I attended one of the training sessions right before the break. Teachers were extremely impressed with that program, its intuitiveness and ease of learning the program, and I think we have some great results thus far. We had so far 190 kids participate in some of the math assessments with 99% of their lessons being passed, and 200 students for the reading component with 84% of their lessons being passed. So we're opening opportunities for other teachers from other buildings to come and visit and take a look. At this point, it is just a pilot, and we're trying to learn as much as we can about the program. Tomorrow kicks off computer-based testing, so we have our students in grades 3 and 6 who will participate in the New York State 3 through 8 assessment of ELA beginning tomorrow. I think that our district staff, our IT departments, and also our tech integrators have really been instrumental in helping to prepare our students and teachers for the transition. As you know, next year it is required for all districts to participate via the computer, so we wanted to get ahead of the curve there, so to speak. Our district vision committee has been hard at work since October, and I thank Ed and Liz for your involvement on that committee as well. We have determined our new vision statement, nurturing our full potential. After much discussion and going back and forth with what we value and what our core beliefs are, we landed there because we really felt that really encompassed all that we hope out of our education system in West Seneca, and that's helping everybody to be their personal best. And we do that whether we are a teacher, a staff member, a community member, and we really take pride in the whole well-rounded child. So look for more to come on that. We will be seeking feedback from our community on how that's reflected in our current mission statement. So as we look to make modifications there, we will keep you informed along the way. And last but not least, the Seal of Biliteracy presentations are at both East Senior and West Senior at the end of this week and next, where the students who have been preparing for their presentations, I'm very excited to go see these. They're always fun to see how well fluent they are in another language, and some kids are even doing this in 2 languages, which is fantastic. They had that endorsement on their diploma, and it's really something that businesses are looking to see our students leave with that ability to speak in another language. So those are just a few of the things in the world of curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move over to our student rep. So Megan, you are up.
Good evening, everyone. My first thing was actually about the New York State Seal by Literacy that is happening. No, it's okay. You're good. And so, yeah, that is happening at the end of this weekend and next, and I'm very excited to present mine. This week is Spring Spirit Week for us, so tomorrow is our faculty volleyball game over at West Senior, and then Friday for both sides of the district, Mr. West and Mr. East, so boys will be competing to be Mr. West and Mr. East. Our Students of Excellence ceremony, that will be, or dinner and everything, that will be happening April 25th, and we are preparing, our teachers are preparing review classes for the AP and final Regents exams, so I know those have started within like the math and social studies and all that kind of stuff. We have a lot of induction ceremonies and senior recognition for Spanish Honor Society, which is the 26th. French Honor Society had happened before break, and French Honor Society is also doing a senior dinner. Our spring sports have started again, and I know for track, the girls and boys are both doing well, and we now have a boys tennis team at West, so they're very excited I think they have a match tomorrow, so they're very excited to be a part of that. And that is all I have.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Nice job.
Okay, we're going to move into public comments. So I'm going to read a little statement, and if anybody wants to come up to speak to the board, Megan's going to move her little microphone over there. Thank you. The public comment section is time set aside for the community to speak directly to the Board of Education. Each speaker is given 3 minutes with a total allotted time to last no more than 30 minutes. When called, please step up to the podium and state your name and address. Do not divulge any confidential information. And if you'd like to be contacted, please leave your information with the district clerk. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the board this evening? Okay, good news. Thank you. All right, we're going to go over into our presentations and recognitions. So I'd like to ask Mary Beth Sweeney. She's here from East Senior to introduce our bowling state championship champs.
Good evening. I am Mary Beth Sweeney. I'm one of the administrators at West Seneca East High School, and it is my honor to publicly recognize and congratulate the West Seneca East boys bowling team, along with their coach, Coach Stabluski, on not only winning the Section 6 Class C championship in February, but also the New York State Championship Division II in March. I'd just like to introduce the boys, and if you would please stand when I call your name. Jacob Zajac, 8th grader. Joshua Zajac, 9th grader. Jacob Oluet, 10th grader. Zach Spengler, 11th grader. Jacob Raskenberger, also an 11th grader. Nick Biondolillo, also 11th grader. And senior Michael Marone, who is unfortunately not able to be here tonight. Oh, he is? Oh, I'm sorry. Senior Michael Marone. There you go. I didn't see him. Just a little bit about this boys' season. The season began with 164 schools competing in this division, with the top 9 competing for the overall championships. East Senior defeated their closest opponent by 183 pins. This is the 3rd state championship in the history of the district, and this team is also further distinguished by receiving a Scholar Athlete Award, which means the overall GPA of these boys is over 90%. Gentlemen, I know that you, as well as your families, are very proud of this amazing accomplishment, and we are here this evening to make sure that you know and understand you are sons of West Seneca, and the entire community celebrates you. Thank you.
We'd like to get a picture if you can, if gentlemen and Mrs. Sweeney and Coach, can we get a picture?
Sure.
Yep. Mrs. Al.
Maybe right over
Mrs.
here.
Callow would
There's
like
a
to take
nice
a
empty space right over there. Or that works too.
I'll just say just a couple things. So this was our award we received at States when we won the state championship. And then we just had our end of season, I call it end of season gathering because there's no reason to call it a banquet. These kids, they just want to bowl, so we just bowled some more. So while we were there, we had the honor of being recognized by Erie County legislator James Malzeski from Erie County, and they actually gave us a proclamation and recognized us in the county for winning the state championship also. So this will go in the trophy case with everything else when it's updated by Ms. Sweeney. Boys, you got anything you want to say? Look, these kids are great. This is my second year. I could talk all day about these kids, honestly. I won't, because I'm a talker. But 6,329 pins, that's what you want to put in the back of your head. That's what we had total to win the states. It's one of the highest numbers of pinfall in the states in a number of years. They got championship rings coming, they've got medals, and I'm so glad that all these kids will be back next year. I appreciate you guys for having us and recognizing these guys. Thank you.
Congratulations. Yep. Yep. There, Norma.
Repeat, win it again next year, let's go.
Mrs. Sweeney? Get over there. Yeah.
Should we arrange them like pins? I'm not touching everybody in the back there. Who's that kind of over here? Yeah. All right, if you go that way, Steve, you go that way, Steve. There we are. I got everybody.
Will's getting in the picture.
One more.
Quick question, sir. The orange, you guys already have sponsorship deals, or what's going on?
These are the section 6 colors. So when you win this section, you get to buy the gear. So you buy the gear and you wear this to the states, and then this is how you recognize that you won the section.
Perfect.
You don't get orange and black unless you win the section. Now, we wear the green and gold proudly. I'm alumnus, so we've got it all. But they wear this because they represent the section.
Way to go, boys, win it again next year.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Good job.
Reach out to Gary about new signs for when you come into the town.
Jan.
We have them for band and
They've
football.
already reached out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Bob Brightstein is
Image
working on it.
and licensing.
course.
you'll have to
Yes, that's what I said too.
All right, Jan is here. I saw her come in.
Yeah, she's here.
I was driving by one of the town signs.
All right,
and I
Mr.
thought,
Thiel, you
we
are
need our
up.
own billboard. Forget the town signs right next to the town.
You
like,
can hear me.
With all our stuff.
I know.
Okay, you did hear me. Are you ready?
Sit down. I'm good. Oh, okay, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. There's some fish in here. Oh, really? Let's make sure.
Tell Jan to take goodies.
I was saying you should sit.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Thiel will take over with our budget presentation.
The bottom line really is no change from the last one. It would be unfortunate. Part of all this is we do not yet have a New York State budget, so we do not have final revenue numbers or any change in regulation. So this is our final draft and hopeful adoption by the board. I'll just show up a slide to say that missing data on this slide is a wait for the governor's hopeful signature, and we can fill in the blanks. So we're expecting the same state aid as outlined in the governor's original proposal. We have no reason to believe anything different. So hopefully that column will carry over by the end of this week, and in the budget hearing on May 2nd, you'll see the full numbers represented. Again, the tax levy up 2.48%, or $1.66 million. That is at the cap amount, compares to 2.25% last year. Preliminarily, we estimate that to be 56 cents for a town of West Seneca resident on the tax bill versus the assessments. We get additional data on taxes in May, and then additional data, final data in July, so we'll keep updating the board on these numbers as they become available. We'll flash forward to anything that's changed. I think this might be the first time we've really seen the BOE slide. It's a complicated budget of just over $12 million this year. It generates about 65 cents on a dollar in BOCE's aid. Once you remove the special ed services from the budget, they're stacked and aid is paid on those in a different manner. So the significance in this budget is on the 2110 line, the growth on that line has slowed as we've sort of hit maximum enrollment on the CTE slots. Our kids attending BOCE's half-day programs have sort of peaked out at around 200, and it's about 20% of the junior and senior class, so it's not, unsubstantial. But that's about the penetration we've had for enrollment and for next year. So we don't have that marching forward the way it has in the past, using up $500,000 or $600,000 of budget dollars. So it's kind of gone flat, and we'll continue to serve whatever students are interested, but from a financial perspective, it's good to see it flatten out and allows us to fund money into other programs. Just one thing is the New York State budget not being approved, we expect the possibility that the capital outlay project will be $250,000 limit and possibly multiple buildings as opposed to the current $100,000 limit for one building. The budget we're asking you to adopt tonight is at the $100,000 level, so we'll have to consider, should the law change, whether we change the budget. And we could do that two ways. We could change it at the hearing by just adopting an amendment, or we could wait until next year and just do an adjustment to the budget, which the board would approve, and we would identify the projects at that point. At this point, we have not identified any projects for the board. We have no shortage of lists. It's just a question of whether it's going to be 100 in one building or 250 across the buildings. So rather than get it confused, we'll just leave it at the 100 unassigned at this point, and we'll catch up to that as the law changes. So there's the breakout of our budget as to how it goes into different categories. Well, one large increase here is at the equipment line, the 200 line. We have tried to put additional funds there to cover what we believe are one-shot projects, items that can be done next year and then not repeated in the following year, to sort of catch us up on some maintenance and purchases that have not been done for the last several years, and get us back up to speed on whether that be additional vehicles purchased for the maintenance and grounds fleets, or additional mowers and equipment for the grounds crews. All very much needed, all difficult to procure in this environment. So it has its own challenges, but we're able to set aside some money this year, and that I would expect not be repeated in a following year. That money could go elsewhere in the budget. The other notable increase, I would say, is really on the employee benefit line, where our self-funded health insurance is experiencing an uptick. As we know, during COVID, elective surgeries were put off. They did not tick up as fast as many expected post-COVID, but now in this current year, we've seen them begin to rise, and the expectation is that your knee replacement, shoulder replacement, that type of surgery will continue. The population we cover is a little older, so it's a little more susceptible to this type of surgery. And we've just had a major presentation about our pharmacy program as well. And, you know, if you watch any major television event, most of those commercials are duly represented in our pharmacy program. So the people who market pharmaceuticals certainly do an excellent job. And then the bus purchase, which is a separate proposition, is higher than last year, primarily because costs of buses are escalated dramatically. And we're just trying to catch up and keep our fleet current. Actually, in this current year, it took us 7 months into the school year to get delivery of buses we ordered a year before. It's just, they're just not available, and we take the chassis whenever we can get them. There's the bus purchase proposition, $983,000 for 65 student capacity vehicles, for 30 student capacity vehicles, and we'll be looking to retire probably 4 to 6 vehicles out of the fleet and see if they can be repurposed for other purposes inside the district. I know there's people waiting for the possibility of reusing the buses in curricular ways and operational ways. One of the other things on the budget tonight, on the program tonight, is a resolution authorizing our share of approximately $10,000 of a $40,000 study for the electric buses. In order to start the process on long-term planning for electric buses, we have to begin a study with NYSERDA, the state energy agency, identifying the capabilities of the electric grid in West Seneca, with specific focus on the grid where the transportation department is located, and whether the transportation current site could handle electric buses versus the current buses. Electric buses are longer, they are heavier, and they require a different infrastructure. So we'll have that study, we'll know more about the grid, and we'll be able to plan accordingly. So no commitment to buy buses at this point, it's merely just enlisting an engineering firm to help us understand the capabilities of the communities.
Well, I think I know the answer, but is that a mandate by the state that we have to have that study done?
The mandate is that a study must be done before you begin the long-term planning. And with the first potential purchase in 2027, that time frame's going to go quickly. Okay. So, in theory, the way the law is written now, we're not allowed to buy gas buses, diesel buses after 2027. So, one of the issues, of course, is the cost. These buses are 4 times as expensive as gas buses. Right. The replacement cost of a battery pack is unknown.
Yeah. I mean, the likelihood of that coming to fruition is slight in my mind. Right. So the taking the measures of looking into our capacity to even, should that come to fruition, that's something we have to do though, correct? Right. Not a choice we're making, we're doing it because we have to do it. We're not leading the league here. Other districts are well ahead of us, including several that have purchased electric buses and operate them. It's an interesting experience to actually ride one. The superintendent and I visited Lake Shore and rode theirs. And much like an electric vehicle, an electric car, when it's moving at less than 20 miles an hour in a parking lot, it emits what can best be described as UFO music. So you know that it's there, because you cannot hear it otherwise. So, right. To your point, Mr. Vanderloop, that's exactly true. Whether this comes true or not in 2027 or beyond, I can't say, but there's an opportunity to have the study done 75% subsidized by the state. Okay. So, thank you.
What Erie County districts already have purchased electric buses?
I know several this year are looking at bus purchases for electric.
But they haven't purchased them yet.
But Lake Shore has purchased it, and several others are looking.
Did Clarence?
I'm not aware.
Okay, I knew they were looking,
You know, we may be more than just having to buy the buses, though. We might have to be building a whole new building and garage and everything, right?
Yes.
That's what the study will determine?
Not
No,
may.
Yeah.
We will.
Yeah.
We will.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a significant question as to whether the current site could handle
There's chargers that take up space. The buses are longer. Our lifts, frankly, I don't think are going to be able, that are in the bus garage, probably are not going to be able to accommodate these buses, not only because they're heavier, but because they're longer, and just where the lifts would touch the bottom of the buses, it's not going to work. We're probably going to have to, we would have to likely replace that as well. So there's a number of challenges, but then it's just the power grid determining, we can't just flip a switch. So that's where that's part of that study as well too, is just determining, just how much power is going to be required to be able to charge these. They can't do it all at once, so it's like a rotating basis. I mean, and that's not something we necessarily have to program, but, we've got a lot of buses, so, it's going to be interesting.
Where is the private side of things, like for student and them? Where are they along? Same laws they have to follow too? Like,
I
are
believe
they?
that the law will apply to them as well, which will only further escalate transportation costs. So-
Right.
Because their capital costs will increase dramatically as well. Next steps is, we would ask that you adopt the budget this evening. We have a lot of work to do between now and May 2nd to meet all our state deadlines with the proper documentation. The budget hearing would be the 2nd. The vote, as Matt had mentioned, is the 16th of May. If you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to try my best to answer them. And then I have one more item that I just added. That's a requirement that we can review when we're done. Are there any questions on the current spending plan? If not, there's a 2-page added after the question page. This 2 pages will be a separate addition to the business office website. We are required, because of the size of our foundation aid increase, to gather public comment. Comments will be gathered starting tomorrow through May 19th. Comments will be reviewed and summarized and shared publicly on our website June of 2023, and then they'll be posted with the State Education Department July of 2023. We had to account for about $7.6 million worth of funding in various categories. These are the categories that summarize some of the things going on inside of our budget. We've reviewed these at the past meetings. Significant investment and support for students with disabilities. Our top 2 lines make up the majority of the funding. That and maintaining the mental health capacity that we've built in the district. Adding back the school resource officers from the federal funding, and then additional teaching staff focused on literacy. And I understand that, these are discussions that are still ongoing. We just have to account for the potential funding, and that's why this is here on this slide. Building environment, health and safety. This is some of the one-time projects that we hope to accomplish in the next year. HVAC controls, cell signal boosters, building repair, vehicle repair, maintenance, and acquisition of equipment. So those will be up for public comment for the next 30 days. Obviously, we'll report that to the board and meet the requirements of the regulation.
Great.
Any questions on that?
I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Soboni. Dr. Soboni will give us a staffing presentation update. So, you can take it over, John, whenever you're ready.
Sure.
So thank you for this opportunity to update as a spring staffing update. As I know, we've talked about this pretty regularly through the course of the school year, and staffing really is a nonstop process. We continue to evaluate and look at staff. An update currently looking at our priorities for this year certainly is fiscal mindfulness. We, as you know, we have added several positions through our CARISA and ARP funding. In addition to other funding, we will be using this year, this summer, and throughout the course of this upcoming school year to look at the utilization and efficiency or efficacy of our spending in these areas. How are the positions being used? Are they benefiting our students? Some of the focus areas obviously were elementary class sizes, our learning labs, our technology integration, social, emotional, special education, etc. This is an extremely comprehensive process. There are many people involved in our district staffing. We review enrollment, we look at trends, we review student needs, principals, teacher leaders, directors, central office team, all working together, looking at teacher caseload, student needs, etc. And this process will continue on right up until the start of the school year. You see here we have our class enrollment guidelines. These have been established for some time. You will see later in the slides that we are generally under these in just about every area. Certainly some of our middle school, 6th grade, as you know, has been a bubble grade for us. But over the past several years, we have made a concerted effort as a district to keep our elementary class sizes at or below, or mostly below, the guidelines, with some exceptions certainly. And our high school, obviously it's extremely complex with all the courses. We look at teacher caseload in our core areas, and we do talk about our minimum class threshold of 13 to 15 students. There are exceptions to that. And as the student requests finalize, I sit with the building principals, department chairs, directors, and we talk about which courses, should run, should we try to run them, should we merge them across sides of town. More than ever, our high schools and our middle schools work together to make sure that our teacher caseload is balanced and we're able to offer students every possible opportunity and course. Just a glimpse at our current elementary enrollment. We do not expect any significant changes in our enrollment at any level. So this was just pulled, I think, off of our March enrollment data. And just some notes along the side there about utilizing our grant funding. We will remain a class size focus this year and looking at some new positions, which I'll speak about in a future slide we've talked about at previous meetings, and just continue to evaluate what is working, what is the impact, what data do we have to support these decisions as we begin to plan or continue to plan how we exit from the grant funding and move into general funding. Middle school enrollment, current snapshot. Similar, we've worked on balance and alignment of the middle school programming, and Mrs. Persico worked with the principals there over the course of this year to ensure some of our health and PE courses and programming is aligned. Introducing new programming and enrichment opportunities in the capstone at the middle school. And just looking at, we implemented the learning labs, which was required a staffing commitment of an assignment there. Is it working? Is it making an impact? And special programming and special education programming has been certainly a priority K-12. Current high school enrollment. As mentioned previously, we did look at all of our retirements to determine are there opportunities to realize savings by not filling all of them. There are some that we plan on filling, and we will be evaluating. I'll be meeting with both high schools, principals, administrative team, and every department comes in over the course of 2 days, and we look at all the student requests by section, what the section count and class size would be, and we will start looking at what is the impact and how, for example, we had, maybe 4 math retirements, and what would happen if we replace 2 of them, or 1 of them, or all 4 or 3, and how that affects our class size. So we'll be doing that. We haven't made any final decisions to abolish anything, and if we can realize savings, we will consider that. And as I said here, as has been happening over the last several weeks and months, led by Mrs. Persico and our department chairs and our directors and principals, is a course review in each one of our subject areas to looking at what do we currently offer, is it current? what is the enrollment trends of the last several years, and what changes do we have to make in the curriculum handbook this fall in order for students to register and sign up for the 24-25 school year.
Can I just ask a clarifying question as far as course, our students have their courses selected for next year? Where are they in that process?
They are finalizing all of the they've met with their counselors and are putting in their requests. So we're right in the process of finalizing that, and then the high school principals will pull all that data together, and then the first week in May, that Wednesday, Thursday, we will meet as a team and review all of that data.
Okay.
John, would you say by the end of May, early June, you will know exactly staffing projections for next year?
Absolutely. I think we are very close to having a handle on that right now,
Okay.
for sure. I don't expect any significant changes. We know what our history is with our class enrollment. I could see, well, maybe we need to replace this position. Maybe we thought we didn't have to replace it, we may have to. I don't expect the need to create any additional positions at the high school or middle school. If anything, we may need to replace a retirement that maybe we weren't planning on it, but I don't expect any new spending in those areas.
Okay, thank you.
Elementary has been a large focus for us. Some of these positions on this slide are on this agenda, but I wanted to take a moment and talk with the board. We are approaching a timeline where we have to do our in-building shifts, where we have to tell teachers what they're doing and then start a transfer process. So my hope is that, by the end of the night, we have within a short while, we have some commitment to some of these positions, some of which we've already talked about and are moving forward with. For example, the PE teacher to assist at West Elementary, we have new special ed programming coming in at West Elementary. And with new special ed programming requires, or it often adds strain to our elective areas, coursework, to give those students an opportunity in the elective areas, or specials, art, music, PE. So with the amount of programs, there is a need, and on the agenda tonight is an increase in one PE teacher. The two math teachers recommended, they aren't on the agenda, and I would propose that we put them on the May agenda. That is looking at caseload across their elementaries, and several meetings with their elementary principals, and looking at some map data, and looking at our ratios between math support to our, would be maybe our bottom 20% students in math. We're seeing that Northwood certainly has a higher ratio and has a great need. So I'm recommending, along, I think, with the administrative team, the elementary principals, that we consider adding 2 math teachers for Northwood. They would be elementary certified teachers with a focus on math remediation. And working all of these positions proposed can be supported with the budget, and whether or not we move ahead to create them, obviously, is a decision presented to all of us.
Are you moving many students? Like balancing east and west?
We don't, with the special ed programming,
Well, in general, too.
we don't plan on moving students between east and west. There is no redistricting or anything. I know there's a committee going, so there has been no decision or no movement on that. Mostly there are some 811 programming and a 1211 that is being added primarily to West Elementary. So as those students, for the most part, some will be coming from in-district, some are incoming to our district.
I see.
So.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
Was mathematics one of the areas that landed us in TCI for Northwood?
TSI, I think it was probably more ELA based.
Performance,
Yeah.
achievement, and growth, so ELA.
Okay.
Question about math remediation teachers, would they be K through 2 or split K to 5? How are you anticipating those would be?
They would be working with the building principal and really their academic team to determine what would be best to support the students. So I don't know whether one teacher would have a primary focus and the other one would have maybe an intermediate focus. You work with Mrs. Ferry, the principal there, and really her whole RTI team to determine what would be best to support the students.
Okay.
Each building has, usually for math, we've been working with a certified teacher assistant that supports and either pulls students out, pushes in the classroom, or supports students in a variety of ways. So all buildings at the elementary have ELA and math support. But when we looked at the numbers of students scoring at the lower level, we realized that there was a little discrepancy with Northwood. And we don't believe we have enough staff in the other buildings to pull from. So that's the request to create.
Okay, so the deficiencies are K through 5 then?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's what I think that was my question. Thank you.
A music teacher is something that I don't believe I've spoken with the board with. This is something that we had as we go through our elementary staffing, I meet with the elementary principals several times with Mrs. Persico and Mrs. Fowler, and then we have a meeting where we bring in our music coordinator, Mr. Jalowski, we bring in our art coordinator, Mrs. Greenway, our teacher at Allendale, we bring in Marissa Falacaro, our athletic director, and we look at all of our special areas. So our music education teacher is another identified need and one that I would recommend that we put on the May agenda. Over the years, we have had a reduction or haven't filled many music retirements. Working with Trevor, he has recommended that we add a position that would support vocal music and strings. We currently have a little over one teacher that supports strings K-12. So a position like this that would primarily live out of this building and again support some of the special ed programming and the current music programming would have a trickle effect with, right now we have a high school music teacher that's traveling to Northwood, that would stop, and we have some other sharing between Clinton. So one position would have a large impact across all of our elementary buildings and even touch some of our secondary buildings. So we did vet this. I did work with our business office and talk with our elementary principals and Trevor and believe that this should be something that we should place on the next agenda to create.
Well, please do, so I can vote on that one.
I knew you'd be in favor of that, Mrs. Stovall.
It sounds great.
The teacher assistant position is something that is on tonight's agenda, and this was also to help our special area teachers. They often are pulled to do RTI cover when we have RTI meetings, and this came up as a think tank amongst the elementary principals that a traveling teacher assistant that would have one day in each building that could support coverage when RTI happens would be a great resource for each building, and also put our special area teachers with students and in sections. So that is already on the agenda tonight. A few other things that we've talked about we've talked about a few times that don't necessarily require, well, the third one would require board action and all would eventually require board action. First one being the continuation of the elementary TOSA student support positions. Those are something that we piloted this year. We started in December. And people have been serving that out, and currently their term is set to end at the end of this year. I do need to know whether or not we plan on moving forward with that for next year, because if not, these people bump into positions, and how that staffing is impacted and where teachers are assigned, we can't start our transfer process until then. So this is something that I would like to, or we should as a district, make some decisions on and move forward with. And the TOSAs would only require to be backfilled with a substitute next year as well. It wouldn't be till about middle of next year we would have to make a decision when we hit the 1 year mark whether they are backfilled with a probationary position.
Yeah, you don't want to get to the middle of the year and make that decision. Those decision needs to be made now. When does the transfer process begin?
We are obligated to do that by the middle of May 15th. We usually start before then.
May 15th is the deadline, though, you have to get...
We have to start our transfers by then. And we are prepared to do that. In order to start our transfers, we need to know what staff we need, and we need to tell staff what they're going to be teaching the next year. So then when the transfers come out, we call that in-building shifts. So if Mrs. Beers taught third grade and I as a principal want to move her to fifth grade, I just have to tell her that. So then when the transfers come out, whether she's happy with that or not, she can have knowledge and understanding over what she was assigned to, so she could put in for a transfer should she choose.
We didn't tell you that. You're doing third grade next year.
No problem.
You got time.
I'm flexible.
A lot of chemistry going on.
One thing that I know was talked about, again, this is something that we don't necessarily need to make a decision on right now. It could be something that we consider even in the fall, but there's been some chatter about considering literacy coaches. and whether or not we want to consider creating some literacy coach as a TOSA position to help support primarily in our elementary level. And as you know, with the creations in special education and working with our building administrators and in talking with our central team, one thing that has been identified as a priority from our principals and has asked us to consider is the creation of some reading teachers that would not only help our CT students, special education students in CT, but also help our students to prevent, well, I should say to try to, I guess, prevent identification in special education. And if we believe that we can meet their needs at a young age and where the deficiencies are, that we can get them on track and stay in a general education path. Again, that is something that we could consider down the road. Could be as early as next meeting if we wanted. To me, the big priorities for us as a group and for this board, I would recommend would be the math and the music. You're already taking action on the PE and the teacher assistant tonight, and then really determination on the student support at the elementary buildings. I will say that our principals are certainly hopeful and advocating for that. They believe that they've been extremely beneficial, and I was able to share some survey results with our board. Seems to be some great feedback from teachers and administrators alike. We can always pivot from that should we continue it in future years. It would just mean that we would likely pair that with some retirements, and those teachers would push back and fill those retirements. Any questions on this slide? I know there's a lot of information there.
John, I'm sorry, I missed your last piece when you were recommending. I had math teachers, music, and what was your last piece?
Tonight, you are already, the PE position and the teacher assistant are on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I am recommending that for the next agenda,
Yeah.
that we put the math teachers on
Okay,
and the music teacher.
okay.
And it would also be beneficial to know about the TOSA positions.
Okay.
Even if we made a decision even prior to the next board meeting, we can engage a lot of our processes at the district level with transfers, et cetera.
Okay. And I don't know if you can answer this, but the 3 to 5 additional reading teachers to support CT students and reduce special education classification, do you know specifically what reading supports we would have in place, like what program we would use?
So currently we use a program called Phonics First.
Okay.
I'm sure certainly can jump in as well. Phonics First is a Orton-Gillingham type program that provides a systematic approach to reading instruction. And what we have found from some data gathering is that upon moving through the classification process, students may no longer receive reading support from a reading teacher. They may move to a special education teacher support who may or may not have that same depth of training in the specific area of reading. So what we were also trying to do is to mitigate some of those reading issues and that gap that sometimes widens to get a person more specialized in reading to provide that level of support, which is all allowed within the continuum of services, to maybe hold off the need to move to more restrictive settings, continuing down the path moving forward. So in the past few years, we have district-based 15-to-1 classrooms where those teachers are trained in Phonics First and are doing some of that, but we're finding that there's an increased need to access that type of program, and can it be accessed and supported outside of a self-contained environment, specifically utilizing reading support in that way.
Thanks.
I would also
That's what I
add,
was like hoping for,
Yeah, that's to kind of
Yeah.
come at things from multiple layers.
Mhm.
Still receiving CT support for accommodating and modifying and supporting curricular areas, but then also kind of getting the specialist or targeted skill areas in the area of reading to focus that. And that was one of the things that we thought might mitigate that classification rate, and then also to be able to have reading teachers support kids prior to even moving through the classification process.
I-
Just, it also went along with that caseload look and that ratio look and how many teachers we have per numbers of students and where they fall and where they need the support, and what does that caseload range look like, and then what does that trickle down to group size and frequency and duration, and how can we improve that?
So would that specified targeted instruction. Would that go beyond second grade?
It could,
It could.
if need be,
Okay.
absolutely. It'd be K-5, obviously we want to hit it as soon as we could, but if there were some situations that were beyond that, we certainly could target that as well.
Okay, thank you.
I will say with our commitment to lower class sizes, self-contained programming at a 15-to-1, many of our class sizes are in high teens already. So it is already a great learning environment with students of a variety of skill levels in the class, and both maybe some that struggle in some areas and some that excel. So there's some role models built in amongst their peers to support the student learning. So to add the reading support in the general ed setting, we believe can help us prevent potentially the need for a more restrictive environment.
Can I just really just jump in on that too? So the thing is, when you talk about a 15-to-1 classroom too, you can't necessarily operate those in every single elementary too. So this may also help students to maintain in their own buildings too, as opposed to having to transfer to another building too. So self-contained classrooms, like for instance, you concentrate those services in specific buildings. Not every building has 811s, not every building has 1211s, not every building has 15-1s too. So it just increases the likelihood that a student would be able to maintain in their own building. So.
Okay. Secondary, as spoken about, we had 10 retirements in this area, a majority of which will be filled through our application process this spring. We'll be busy. As I mentioned, there are a few that we are evaluating, and I don't expect a need for any additions or creations. Filling these positions in the event that there are a few that maybe we don't have to fill. Again, it gives us flexibility potentially with other ads that we've made out of the grant monies. We will continue AIS support. That was a priority of the board over the last several years in math and ELA. And as I mentioned, we will continue to review class size and programming as the student requests come in. Mrs. Fowler spoke in detail about our special education programming. Many of this is on the presentation, on the board agenda tonight. New classroom teachers from some of the 811s and 1211 program that I mentioned. Teacher aides to support those programs, as those are teachers and aides assigned to those. A director of special education, being able to share some of the duties and responsibilities with the existing director of special education, as our presentation and what was it called? Analysis completed. So that is on the agenda tonight, and we will begin recruitment should it pass. Social worker support, this is for West Middle specifically, and the new 811 programming, and leaving, how many will they have at West Middle?
They have 3 grade levels that are supported by a teaching team of 5. Teaching team of 4.
Transition coordinator is something that I know we've spoken about before. Again, this doesn't require board action to create. This would be something that we would put a posting out to see if teachers were interested, and when a teacher was identified, they would be filled with a sub for a year and serve as a transition coordinator, as I know Mrs. Fowler has spoken to you about. And then the diagnostic team specifically to target elementary, made up of a psychologist and a speech pathologist, to just work towards greater consistency in our student evaluations and identification process.
I have a question about that, Jay. So the psychologist and the speech path will be conducting all of the assessments and everything related to the CSE process?
The goal for these folks are to provide the assessments across 5 elementary schools for initial referrals. So working with the school psychologist and how to shape that moving forward is something that we will be able to do. So some of them still will be doing their reevaluations of students that are already classified, but for potentially any new referrals to the CSE, we're going to start at a level of being able to provide that in a consistent manner.
With this team?
With this team. Yep, working hand in hand with the psychologists in the building, but being able to provide kind of an equitable level of assessment that's provided across the district. So we also can gather some data as to how all of our students perform and through this process. So we can not only provide equitable access, but some level of consistency across the board. Our school psychologists and our speech paths do a great job, but it also will give them an opportunity out of that testing piece and give them some time back into their building to continue.
I'm just interested in the consistency part because it's such a precise process, that processes that are utilized by the school psychologists, why would there not already exist?
Well, certain
that
tests, and certain
consistency?
ways in which those administrations occur, yes, they're standardized, but how in which that looks, this will just provide that level of opportunity for one person who tests not only students here at Westell, but also at Allendale, so that there can be some case review to determine kind of how students are functioning at a specific grade level across the district. This also will go hand in hand to look at some entrance and exit guidelines, so how in which we're moving through that process is done in a similar manner. I also envision that the new director will have an active role in that process as well, from an elementary level. And I think everyone does a good job in doing the things that they know that they need to do, but that was a resounding comment from the analysis, that everyone's working really hard within their own systems, but how do we make that a district system more than a...
Well, I understand the analysis part, but in practicality, you have students who are already have difficulty with their learning.
Yep.
And now you put them in a situation where they're being tested, which is already a foreign type environment. And on top of that, you're bringing somebody in that they have never seen before, they're not part of their school. They come in as a team, and they're kind of like this like crew that comes in and test. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it in Buffalo, and it's failed. And that's what gives me a little bit of pause when talking about this. And this is something, obviously, we could get into further detail with at another time, but I do want to bring that up, that I do have some concerns about
Okay.
the...
Yeah, and I think that perspective of you seeing it in action is something we certainly can learn from.
Yeah.
So let's take that opportunity.
Yeah, your neediest and most delicate kids
Yep.
need to have some relationships around them so they understand that
Yep.
this is...
Yeah,
This
and
is a
maybe
good-
this can evolve in how in which that plays out, but it provides that, maybe we can get at the goal in a variety of different ways.
Okay. Thank you.
Quick glance at our elementary school projected class sizes. This will change, but this is as of right now, rolling up our students and making a prediction on kindergarten. I think these numbers are great. There are a few bubbles. Worked with the principals. They are comfortable and feel good about where they are at moving into next year. We track registrants and enrollment right up through August. I am pulling reports constantly, talking with elementary principals, looking at potential bubbles. Clinton, fourth grade, I see it there. We look at the Allendale, second grade. Principals have some ability, if they know that, hey, this second grade could use a little bit smaller class, the third grade's okay. Sometimes classes, grade levels have their own personality. Overall, again, very collaborative process, and very in sharing and working together. So, very proud of it.
John, if I might mention this, you keep using the word bubble, and I understand that there are bubbles in there, but when you get to sixth grade, it's not a bubble. It just keeps getting stuck there because of the way that the teaming.
That is not a bubble. You are correct, Mr. Vanderlip, and that is something that has been relatively consistent, is that large class size in sixth grade. I do believe whether it is an evaluation of the teaming structure, whether some of the work from the redistricting committee comes to fruition over the course of the next year or months, I think will assist that. The principals are aware of it. They believe they have great educators in place. I wish it was lower. I don't have an answer for you, though, to make it lower.
Just, you have sixth graders coming in, this is their first experience in the middle school, and again, if you were going to have lower class sizes, that's probably the spot to have. So,
Maybe we get a snowstorm at one time or something. Maybe we get a snowstorm to create.
No, that's by design, but
12 years ago. I have a sixth grader at home. Our high school projected class sizes, these are ranges. It is very hard for me to tell you what our math class sizes are going to be. One, the requests are still coming. Two, Each section could have its own, we might have a push on Algebra 2 this year, we expect our ranges to be, and I will tell you, in some of my conversations with the principals, that, hey, there may be a retirement here that I want you to plan without replacing. We had some class sizes in high teens. They may push into mid to low, mid-20s. We don't have an appetite to have classes in high 20s or north of that. So that is something that I will be working with them and engaging with. Again, it might require replacing some retirements that we initially weren't, but it won't require any new positions. We don't have any increased enrollment that would require that. That's all I have.
Does anyone have any questions? Nope.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, John.
All right, Ms. Fowler, we have one more presentation regarding our grants and our update, so
Update on our...
if she's doing it.
All right, so just wanted to provide tonight a brief update as to where we are in terms of our grant support. So we have started a collaboration with Robert G. Miller and Associates, which is a local organization that works to support school districts and other entities in the development of grants and some fundraising opportunities. We began this collaboration about a year ago in June of 2022. And I just want to say it's kind of taken us this cycle to really get into a groove in this area in terms of understanding kind of how the grant process works, how in which their support works, what could be made available, and what are some opportunities that are available. So I'm the district liaison with the grant specialist. So what that means is that I meet on a bi-monthly basis with the grant specialist to talk about what are some of the current things that we're looking for, what are some of the things areas that we might want to apply for, and then they kind of facilitate a weekly update where they share grants that are available, grants that might be becoming available, and how that would work. I also link the grant specialist with various departments. So for example, most recently, Sue Whalen worked with the grant specialist to write grants in the area of her department to be able to see if we can access some of the funds through grants. Various grants are considered, various grants are shared with us. Some of them range from very small dollar amounts, and I mean small meaning $100 up to $1,000, anywhere up to large amounts. They also categorize the grants, of course, as to what might be in specific areas. Some of which that we have applied for, we have not received, and then they also get feedback to be able to help us to understand what is it. Some of it has to do with district demographics, some of it have to do with need areas, which is good, but then also puts us in a situation that we may not have the strongest case in comparison to others that may receive that grant. So two that specifically that we applied for, one was an All These Smart Kids grant that Carmen worked on with Carol Bush to get some books in the hands of students, and then it was declined for a variety of different reasons based on kind of the way in which that we wanted to use the funds wasn't necessarily the way in which that the provider of the grant was looking for that. Similarly, I applied with the grant writer for the JSF Disabilities Grant for transition specialists to be able to offset some of those costs to look at post-secondary employment for students with disabilities. Again, it kind of came back with not a ton of information as to why. The grant specialist thought it just, was not as significant of a need as the other grants that the foundation received. One that I'm happy to say that we did receive or were awarded was the New York State Mitigating Impact of Trauma in Schools grant. It's a $25,000 New York State grant focused with support from Robin Brady and Sharon Lofgren in getting this kind of together, at looking at providing some intense and specific professional development in the area of trauma in schools and focus on Winchester Potters. Again, utilizing some of their data related to student services that are in need there and providing students with some specific support. We were awarded that $25,000 grant, which will offset costs for professional development, for the crisis team support, and in a variety of different ways. So that was one that was exciting, that we were able to capitalize on. Currently, the grants that are in process right now, one is a Department of Justice Cops hiring grant that we reached out to the West Seneca Police Department to support in regards to some assistance utilizing SROs. So that could be something that could come forth. Additionally, we just kind of in the final stages of data collection, but in the process of writing the grant, is another DOD grant on school violence prevention program, and to look at some of our safety and security protocols, and looking at providing some updates and sharing at our safety committee meetings. As there are many things that kind of have come forth that we hope that this grant will also provide some support in the area of funding that can offset some costs for some safety changes that we need to put in place. This also is a very competitive grant, and in conversations with the grant writer yesterday, there are many schools and many entities that applied for this grant. She wanted me to not put all my eggs in this basket, but I was really excited about it, but just continuing to try and provide as compelling of a case as possible. And again, sometimes our data and our demographics are great, but sometimes they don't always show the specific need in comparison to other grant entities. So I'm excited about it. I hope it's an opportunity that we could potentially be awarded, but I'm also understanding the grant process a little bit more through this. And again, as I referenced, Sue Whelan wrote in collaboration with this agency as well, a National School Lunch Equipment Grant for 7 different grants, up to $105,000 to replace some of the equipment in our cafeterias. So that one's pending as well. And just, continued collaboration and discussion amongst our central team and our departments, and what could be some opportunities that we can take into consideration. Will and I had a conversation with both Bob Merkel and Nadine Fessio in regards to their 501c3 status, if that can be an opportunity for some of their organizations, because some grants like to be able to partner with those that have that level of status. So we're really trying to get our feelers out there to see what could be areas, and then what we could do in terms of matching that need and matching those opportunities with the grant. And really just as the liaison, my role is to continue to have that ongoing communication with the grant specialist, and then tap them into the right people that they might need to be able to access some of that specific information.
I just have one question. How much do we pay Robert J. Miller and Associates for their services?
It's about $8,000 a calendar quarter.
A calendar quarter.
And
Okay.
it can be canceled at any calendar quarter.
Okay, thank you.
We had a 1-year commitment that's just expired, and now we're on a
Okay.
rolling 3-month.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Nope. Okay, thank you, everybody. We will move on to our agenda, our consent agenda. So, under our consent agenda, we will be approving all of number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 8. So I'll give you a moment to look it over. And then, if anybody would like to give me a motion, when you're ready.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Diane.
I'll second.
Jan seconds. There's no discussion on consent agenda, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So now we have new business, and new business is quite long. It's 9A through 9V. So before I ask for all of 9, I wanted to ask if anyone wanted to pull anything out of 9 to be voted on separately. Otherwise, I would like to do it all together. There is quite a bit in there. It's 9A through 9B. So if there's anybody who wants something separate, please let me know. I'll give you a moment to look it over. quite a bit of donations.
Yeah, a lot of donations. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Our calendar is on there, the budget adoption, the bus purchase reserve fund, our tax report card. There's quite a bit on
Yeah,
there.
can we pull the calendar?
Absolutely. I'll pull the calendar, so that would be N. Anything else? No? All right.
Make them,
Yeah, now, I'll just announce it. Can I have a motion to accept 9A through 9K, and also 9M through 9V?
Nicole, is that okay to do it that way? Okay.
I make a motion to do what our president says.
Thank you, Ed. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Molly seconds. Is there any discussion on those items?
Again, I just, it's amazing. I don't know if I've ever had this many donations in my 7 or 8 or 5 or whatever years I've been on the board. Like, this is great. A lot of great things. So thank you to everybody. Stevens Driving School, Dan and Mary Biddlecom,
Yeah.
Roger and Marlena Foster, Ebenezer Ale House. This is great. I mean,
That was not an in-kind donation, by the way, either. Just to point that out for everyone.
We get a little donation to our On My Way to K event. That's nice. Okay. All right. Ready to vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Okay. So now we will do 9N. It looks, oh, on my computer, it's interesting. Interesting.
What about yours? What's yours? On your,
So it's L on my printout, but it is M, or, I'm sorry.
It's L on the
Oh, yeah,
computer.
I made a mistake.
you're good.
I'll make
Nicole,
a,
did you get that? Okay, good. All right, can I have a motion to accept 9L?
I'll make a motion to accept 9L.
Thank you, Ed. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Diane seconds. Any discussion?
Discussion?
No discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay. Passes. 6-0.
What was that? I'm sorry.
That was the
There's a
calendar.
calendar.
Okay, the conversation about the calendar?
Yeah, the discussion.
Yeah, just a discussion, I just wanted to. I
Okay.
wanted to bring- I just wanted to ask-
You want to keep your vote, though? Your vote is yes?
Yes, because
Okay.
we're not going to change the calendar at this point.
Right, but sure, I'll open up discussion for you, sure.
But I think moving forward, there really does need to be some conversation around the February break, and the value of the February break.
Okay.
Or lack of value with being off in February and not having 2 weeks around spring. You have athletics going on throughout the course of February. So the schools aren't closed, your teachers who are coaches aren't able to really have a break. Students who are impoverished, which is a growing population, have nothing to do during February break. There's very little offered within the community during that time. Whereas opposed to having 2 weeks off this time of year, excluding the current weather, you would have more opportunities for students to actually have a recess. So I think that moving into, and I understand that the change has been made because BOCES did it, but I don't understand what the value is for students or teachers to have that February break as opposed to 2 weeks in the spring.
Okay, thank you.
Matt, do we have to follow BOCES calendar? Okay,
No.
so it's just, okay, so BOCES sets their
BOCES
calendar
sets their
and
calendar,
then
yeah.
most districts kind of fall in line with
They
that?
do, I mean, it does impact BOCES programming. So if students are
Okay.
going to like CTE programming or
Yeah.
programming like in a BOCES classroom, that's going to be impacted by that. But that's to your point, that conversation has been had. I can tell you, I mean, I'm not saying that on any large scale, but you're not the first person to bring that up, I will say. So others, I think, because when I first started the district, it was like 20 years ago, but we did have the 2 weeks in April, so.
Well, I mean, we
And I'm not
have,
even saying it needs to be the 2 weeks at that point, but the idea that we're getting this winter recess when students are being sent home, and again, my background, you have students who are not getting anything out of that time. It's freezing cold, you don't have access to resources. Many of your resources that you do have access to come from school, and you're sent home during that time. Now, on the flip side of that, if you're a winter athlete, you have games and practices leading up into sectionals. So if you're a coach, you're not getting a break. We're not necessarily saving any money because the schools are still open, because you still have to have practices and such. Like, I know that may be, and there may be some savings there, but I don't know if it's enough to offset I think the possible damage that it does to kids during that time.
well, we have 11 days off in spring right now, too, so I'm just,
Yeah, I would rather, I mean, honestly, I would rather go through, I understand the calendar and reading exams and all that, but, I would rather end a year earlier than have that February break off. I just think it's foolish. I don't think there's any value to it.
All right, well,
We
thank
have
you.
seen quite a bit of absenteeism Easter week anyway, which adds to that, so, I mean, we really,
Are you checking up on me? I left Wednesday.
but I think it's well said. I think we need more time at Easter and less.
Yeah, I think you have more opportunity for students to be out and getting fresh air and doing things as a family that don't cost money.
Well,
All right.
less money, at least they can take the trip down to Florida to see their grandparents.
Sure.
All right, thank
Sure,
you,
well,
guys.
You could drive.
Is there anything else anybody wants to, actually, we're done. We need to go into board discussion. So why don't I move it over? We're done. We're done with number 10. And thank you, though, for your input. It's noted. And we are on board discussion. I just have one thing to talk about with our board, but does anyone else want to bring anything up during board discussion before I jump in? Okay. All right. So,
Will there
and,
be another opportunity for us to say anything
yes. What do you mean?
later on?
this is probably,
No, I just
This is it.
want to encourage people about the baccalaureate services coming up. It's unique to West Seneca, and we're so proud of that, so try to make one or both if you can.
Okay, sure. When are they? Do you know?
One is at, I think Trinity. Lutheran.
Trinity has one this year, and
I'm not sure.
Are they in June,
She's got them.
usually?
Oh, well,
she's pulling them up.
Okay.
She's literally in my calendar.
But they're really lovely, they're really nice. Probably won't do them after I'm gone. They're really nice.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I did have a comment in terms of the budget process. I think people need to understand and that this is a 6-month process that Will and his team and everybody has really gone through, and a very thoughtful process, lots of conversation, lots of questions, and I appreciate the team always being open to answering those questions and having really constructive conversation, because it's important.
Yeah.
The genesis of learning is a question. And, we've asked many of them for ourselves and for those that we represent, so that when we come up with a budget, it is a well thought out, and we don't agree on everything, but we do agree that the money is being put in the place that it needs to for our students.
Yep.
So I thank this team for stepping up here and answering all those questions and going through a 6-month arduous process.
Yeah.
Like, it's half of the year is spent talking about the budget. And then when we pass this one, hopefully, in a couple months, we'll be right back at
Start
it.
all over again.
Talking about capital improvement and all of that. So, you know, when we're here for board meetings and things like that, and folks have opportunities to come in and ask questions, I just hope they do. I hope that people understand that, you know, we're here trying to represent their interests but most importantly, represent the interest of our students.
Well
Thank
said,
you.
Vince.
Yep. We hope to continue the process next year. All right, Jane, do you have those dates?
Yeah.
Okay.
West will be at Trinity Lutheran on May 24th at 6 o'clock. And East will be at St. John's and Clinton on June 12th at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
They're
Thank you.
nice. They're really nice.
Yeah, they are. I
The
do.
music is beautiful. Beautiful.
The kids run them, you know.
There's usually ice cream, at least after the
You
East
like
one.
the ice cream? Yeah.
There is.
Always.
Yeah, there is.
Now, there's ice cream there, too.
There's treats.
And cookies.
It's important.
Not that that's the most important thing.
They're beautiful.
Well, thank you, Jan. Thanks for, leading those, and I hope they do continue.
They will.
I really do.
I think they'll continue.
They've had it for a long time.
Have they?
Yeah.
All right, just one other thing. I just wanted, in your folders are the updated library policies, and these are updated by BOCES, which we subscribe to their services, and they're legally vetted, and they were updated last year. However, we have not updated ours in quite a long time. So I just wanted you all to take a look at them, read through them, and make sure that, you don't have any, if you have any questions, you reach out to us. And hopefully, ideally, we could approve these at our next meeting, May 2nd meeting, I believe. And, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up about that, so we're all clear on.
If we have questions or we're looking for anything,
Yep.
will you guys be addressing it at the agenda meeting at that point?
Yes.
Or like just email
Yeah,
leadership?
email,
Okay.
and we can get you the answers,
Great.
and, but we've vetted them, Molly and Diane and I have read through them several times, and we're comfortable with them, so, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
but
they're
absolutely
solid
reach out.
policies.
They are.
That's
They
what
are.
BOCES is there for.
That's what we pay for them to do, so. Okay. All right, I think that was it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Do we,
Anything else? Anyone have any
is this the proper venue to discuss whether we want to continue a similar seating arrangement to what we have, or, 'cause I noticed we have a kind of a crappy table here, I don't know, we got another filler in the other room, and if we're looking to fit us all in, and no one wants to sit by me, clearly. I don't know what I did shower.
Nobody wanted to sit next to Will either.
But I don't know, maybe Will could slide over by me. I don't know, I personally just didn't know if I know we're trying out different things, so I didn't know if we wanted to discuss that, or if we just don't care, or what.
I think that, when our assistant superintendents have presentations, it's nice that they're at the table with us so that it feels like a conversation. But, I don't know. I think we need to continue the discussion and see how people feel moving forward. And the setup is nice. I don't know if people feel crammed. I think they just need to let me know.
Yeah, well, that's why, again, if we want, maybe the next meeting, bring it up, or discuss how we feel
Sure.
about it, or, so just have time to think about it.
Yep.
I have pros and cons of both sides of it. So,
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right. All right, I actually need to ask for a motion into executive session. So I would like to make a motion to move into executive session for the following reasons: to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, the employment history of particular individuals, and the proposed sale of real property, which publicly would substantially affect the value thereof. May I have a motion to go into executive?
I'll make a motion.
Molly, and may I have a second?
I'll second.
Ben seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. We will not be conducting public business, so
Have a great night, everyone.
have a great
Thanks.
night. Thank you.
Jen?